kind
Is Dick
Okay.
Olmsted present?
Haven't seen him.
of.
Yeah, we're not all here.
That was Dick saying that, Julia.
Oh, okay. Oh, there you are. Okay.
So I'm going to call the meeting to order. And so this is my first time leading the meeting as the new chair, so please bear with me. I'm fairly new to this group too, so I'm going to do my best. So I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:03. And I have a picture to share for my reflection. See if I can share screen. Okay. Let's see. And there we go. Can you guys see the General Sherman tree?
No, we see
No.
your desktop.
Oh, oh. Well, and you see how messy it is. Let's see, new share. There we go. Is that it?
Mhm.
Okay. So as I think as you all know, but maybe Marty doesn't know, I am no tree expert. I'm just a tree lover and homeowner who loves the trees of Lake Forest Park. That's why I got on the board. So this may be old news to the rest of you who I know have so much more knowledge than I do, but I just want to tell you something quick that I learned. So I get, as you guys probably know, I get worried and sad when our large trees are cut down, and especially in light of climate change. And when we get Ashley's tree permit report each month, I always ask, why are those coming down? So as I was researching the amount of carbon captured by trees, and I found a couple organizations with really interesting carbon offset programs involving planting trees. And I like how they seem more personalized than other more generalized carbon offset programs because they give supporters a connection to a specific tree or a grove that offsets and represents their lifetime carbon output. So I have the General Sherman tree here in Sequoia National Park because I found this really cool organization in the UK that's called One Life, One Tree. And they believe that the giant sequoia is the most effective tree species in the fight against climate change. And what they do is buy land and plant sequoia groves with each tree allocated to one of their patrons. So they have figured out that they think one sequoia tree will absorb roughly the amount of carbon, the average amount of carbon that someone in the UK produces over their average life expectancy. And they've chosen sequoias and not natives because for the climate emergency that we're facing, they've wanted to find, the best, a response in proportion to the problem. And a sequoia grove can capture as much as 10 times more CO2 per acre than a natural UK woodland. And so what they do is people pay to be a patron, and they plant a specific sequoia for them in a 100 square meter plot, along with 3 native UK plants. And they protect it from wildlife with fencing or tree guard. They have forestry experts to oversee the grove. And then they donate the groves to an environmental agency that will, or organization that will protect them from logging or development. So I thought that was neat because they actually tell the sponsors which tree is theirs. They can go visit the tree. And so they have a real connection to their carbon offset for their lifetime. And then locally, Forterra, the local conservation and land protection organization, has kind of a similar program that actually started as a partnership with the band Pearl Jam, who wanted to offset the carbon produced by their world tour. So Forterra has a carbon calculator that an individual or a company can use. And then they will plant specific trees or groves to offset that amount. And they have a map, and you can see where the trees have been planted. And near us, they've planted some along these, well, I know it is the Sammamish Slough. I guess now it's officially the Sammamish River, and in Richmond Beach Park. So I thought those were both really interesting programs because they give people a personal connection to their carbon and their carbon offset. So although I hope we can continue educating Lake Forest Park citizens on the value of retaining our large trees, it gives me some hope, and I take heart in these kind of programs that are adding trees to our environment. So instead of you guys hearing me do this every month, I'd like to suggest, now that I'm chair, that we take turns with the reflection. So you're not listening to me every month. Would one of you be interested in presenting something next month? From what I've seen at the meetings I've been to so far, it could be something inspirational. I think Tim read a poem once, or educational. Would that be okay with you guys?
Yeah.
Can someone want to present something next month? Don't all jump up at once.
I can do
Okay.
something.
Oh, good. Who was that?
It was me, Mark,
Oh, great. Okay, thank you.
although maybe I spoke over somebody else who was volunteering at the
Yeah,
same
I think we
time.
were, yeah, I think we were speaking over each other. You said you would do October.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll do November.
Oh, great.
great.
Thank you. Marty. Thank you. Okay. The next order of business is to approve the agenda for tonight.
Excuse me, could we introduce, we have a guest tonight? Could we?
Oh, yeah, good idea. We should maybe all really quickly introduce ourselves. But who is Sheila?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm here just as a guest. I had applied to be on the board if you're interested. And so I'm here just observing.
Oh, cool.
So,
And
What's your
are
name,
you,
Sheila? Your full name, Sheila?
Sheila Newlands. I actually was in Tim's classes.
oh, really?
So when you say, oh, he was doing reflections and inspirational poems, that's very Tim-esque.
So, great. Well, welcome.
Thanks.
And
I-
sorry, did you want to say something else, Sheila? And
Margaret, do you
let's see,
want
we
us to
have-
go around and introduce ourselves?
Yeah. Can we quickly do that? Do you want to go first, Dick?
Okay, I'm Dick Olmsted. I've been on the tree board about 3 years now, maybe, and I'm a professor of biology at UW and live here in Lake Forest Park for 25 years.
How about Marty next? Do you mind?
Hi, my name is Marty Byrne. I'm a master gardener and I've lived in Lake Forest Park for almost 40 years. And I love the trees, and that's why I'm here. I'm a recent addition to the board.
Doug, do you want to go next?
I think you're muted.
Oh, yeah, muted. There you go.
I'm a retired forest ecologist from UW. Oh, Doug Sprugel, retired forest ecologist at UW. I moved to Lake Forest Park about 6 years ago, and I think that covers it.
Yeah.
I've known Dick for a long time.
And how about Julia? Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, my name is Julia Bent. I've been in Lake Forest Park for a little over 10 years now. And I'm one of the the last remaining standing tree board member from the original. And I'm mostly involved in a grant-funded project that I'm doing, rehabilitating a section of McAleer Creek.
And
And I have
I
to finish doing my dishes. and I'll
What was
turn the
that?
video- I have to finish doing my dishes and I'll turn the video back on.
And we've got two other visitors. We have Mike D and Bryn Holmesy. Hi, Bryn. I was just having everyone just quickly introduce themselves. Mike D, do you want to, what is your, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Mike D with the Lake Forest Park Citizens Commission, resident about 9 years and community participant. Thank you.
Great. And Bryn, do you want to introduce yourself? Except you're muted. But you don't have to if you don't want to. There you go.
There. Sorry about being late. Just finished dinner, and Bryn Holmesy. I'm a new member to the community, and I'm trained as a landscape design historian, so I relate to trees quite a bit, and thought this would be a very good thing to get involved with. And I like Margaret. I like how she thinks. So hopefully
She's my neighbor.
That's right. We're neighbors. So hopefully this will be a good situation.
Thank you. So the agenda for tonight's meeting, did anyone have anything to add to that, or did it look okay to you?
One edit, I was not present at the August meeting.
Oh, that's in the minutes, right?
Oh, okay, sorry, that's minutes,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's next on the, so I had a couple things we forgot about, Cameron. Under old business, we can try floating this again. There's the point needed to fill the vice chair position.
Oh, yes, yes.
And
Okay.
also, I wondered if Julia could just say a couple words under old business about how that latest round of invasives removal went.
Okay. Yeah, we can address those items after the tree board info booth.
Okay.
item.
Okay. Does
And-
anyone else have anything else to add to the agenda?
Am I muted? No, I'm not. Can we add something about new members? I'd like to know if Bryn is now a member, or the update on how the process is going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Do that very quickly, but
I can address that under communication.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Okay, so should, can I have a motion to approve the agenda, please? As amended, I added those 2 items, or we added 3 items.
so move.
A second?
Second,
Thank you. All in favor?
aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, it looks like we've got an agenda. Sorry, I'm gonna close the door again, but one of the pets opened up. You're so helpful. Okay, so the next item is to approve the minutes from August. So we
That's
had
for
a,
my amendment to strike my name from the people attending.
okay. Were there any other changes or corrections to the minutes? I know Tim used to give some time for people to read them over during the meeting, but I'm going to try and make things a little more efficient. So I'm assuming you guys all read them. Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve them with Dick's correction?
Motion to approve.
Okay, do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the minutes pass. Okay, do we have any citizen comments, Cameron? Oh, Mike D, would you like to make a comment?
Yeah, just real quick. I was glad to hear that Julia's going to give a report back on the invasive plant project, because I did get a call from or an email from a concerned citizen and was wondering kind of what was happening there. And then also the Stewardship Foundation seemed like they were kind of out of the loop on some of that. Thanks.
Okay. Do we have any other citizen comments? Okay, then our next item is just a reminder that the next meeting will be held virtually on Wednesday, October 6th. So Cameron will ask for RSVPs for that beforehand. So now I'm moving on to communication. So under the item new chair, I just wanted to say again that I'd like to try and make our meetings a little more efficient. Although here I'm already running over the time that was set on the agenda. But I'd especially like to maybe focus more on outcomes, because we have lots of great discussions, but I don't always feel at the end of each one like I am clear on what the next steps are. And I want to make sure everyone has a chance to be heard. So please, if you ever want to say anything, please either, raise your hand up by the screen so I see it, or use the little hand symbol so I make sure to call on you. I also wanted to suggest that if we start getting into really long discussions about something, if it's not urgent, that I'd encourage any of you to speak up and suggest that we kind of research it, research it out of the meeting and then present our recommendations in the next meeting, instead of doing really long brainstorming sessions in the meeting, because it doesn't seem very efficient. I think that was it. Oh, and just, yeah, I like introducing ourselves at the beginning for the benefit of anyone who's new or just visiting. Oh, and one other change that I wanted to make that Ashley's already done, which I really appreciated, was on that tree report that she gives us each month. I'm always really curious to know about the reason for people's tree removal requests. And so she already added those to this month's report where she knew them, because I think that's really helpful for us to know why people are wanting to remove trees, so we can look at that over time. The other item was the Open Public Meetings Act and board communications outside of meetings. This is something that Julia was trying to help me out with, the idea, or the maybe a rule that we couldn't meet, a smaller group of us could not meet or be discussing something outside of these meetings because of the Open Public Meeting Act. And I actually haven't found a definitive answer to how that works, because it seems to be that governing bodies are required to follow those rules, and I think we're more of an advisory body, but maybe Mark can help us with that, or I can reach out to someone else at City Hall, because I don't have a definitive answer about, I'd like us to be more efficient by maybe 2 or 3 people discussing something and coming up with recommendations out of a meeting, but I want to know if that's legal.
Yeah, Margaret, I can tell you what I learned when we started the tree board. And this was conveyed to us by Lauren, which is that a small group of, I think it's less than a majority, maybe it's just 2 or 3, I don't know, can indeed consult with each other. That is not a problem. But you can't have a communication amongst all the members that's not open to the public. And, in all the years I've been here, people have, the board members, unfortunately, have consistently ignored that by sending emails to everyone. And what Lauren wanted us to do was, if you want to email everyone, send it to now Cameron, and ask him to forward it to everyone on the board. That way, I don't understand the mechanics of it, but that way the email becomes available to the public.
Oh, okay.
So you can email me and Doug, but you can't email the whole board. So
Oh,
that's how it
okay.
was explained to me, and that's the premise that we worked under until recently. And I have to say that board members consistently did not follow that. And Lauren would, about every 6 months said, please don't send out emails to everyone, send them to me, and then it would happen again. So that's
Okay.
what I know. That's why I brought it up.
Okay, yeah, no, I don't want to break any rules, so that's good to know. Okay, so
Does
just
that
to
mean Margaret
clarify.
sending out the draft tree thing to everybody was not legal? And could she have sent it could she have sent 5 individual emails? So we didn't comment on each other's comments?
Well, that's, yes, but then you're evading the purpose of it, which is to include the public. So the
The
best
public doesn't need
thing,
to be involved in a draft article for the
oh, I see what
LFT
you,
News. It
okay,
really doesn't.
okay. Well, I'm gonna leave that to Cameron and Margaret to figure out.
Okay,
But all I know is that Lauren consistently chastised us for doing that.
okay,
And
I think if I could just jump in too, I think Julia is essentially correct on that. There's a kind of line there too, where, you can send out information that you don't expect a response to. You can share a reference to a neat article you saw, you think is timely or something. And I think in the case that was mentioned of, here's a draft of the newsletter, or an article that we're proposing for the newsletter. Well, I don't know. I was going to say the reply to all button is where you get into danger.
mhm,
If you reply to an individual, you're in a little safer ground with that, in terms of not involving a whole group of people in your response. If your response has got some content to it, where you're essentially verging on a decision about something, that particular example may be interesting to look at a little bit more. And maybe Cameron, if needs some more clarification, could pursue that with Steve or with Phil, in terms of being sure that everybody's clear about that. But you can share information just on an objective level, and you can ask people. Council members are always saying at the end of their notes, remember, don't reply to all, as a way of being sure that we're staying clear of violating the Open Public Meetings Act. And that, so again, it can be like a chain of emails can also essentially be a serial meeting, as it's defined in that act. So even sharing one thing, one person at a time, and passing that around essentially amounts to a type of meeting that's addressed in the Open Public Meetings Act. So it is kind of tricky.
so maybe to be safe, I can ask Cameron, I'll ask you to check with, you said Steve or Phil, Mark?
That's what I would think. I think Cameron reports to Steve. Am I right?
But for the time being, let's operate under the rules as Julia understands them. And then at the next meeting, Cameron or I can report back about what we're officially supposed to do and not supposed to do.
Mike has a comment.
Oh, yeah, Mike D, did you have a comment?
Yeah, thank you for addressing the Open Public Meetings Act and the trying to make sure you're following the rules. Corey Roche with the City of Lake Forest Park is working on training the Park and Rec Advisory Board on this. And so you might plug in with them and see what they're doing for training on the park members, because they're kind of in the same position. They're also advisory, but the city tries to make all of the commissions, committees and stuff like that kind of follow the Open Public Meeting Act and some of the Public Records Act stuff. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
So my understanding is that what Dick did a few weeks ago, he sent out a link to a presentation that he had enjoyed at a meeting. That should be okay, as long as we don't all discuss the presentation.
Do you think so, Julia?
Yeah, Mark.
I
figure
don't
it out.
But
know.
I guess to play it safe, it's not that hard to just send it to Cameron and ask him to forward it.
Yeah, this is something that we need direction from the city for, whether it be from the staff or whether it be from city council. But it's not up to me to know what's going on. All I know is that when it happened in the past, Lauren would get increasingly pissed off, frankly, if people weren't paying attention to what she kept asking
Okay,
in order to comply with it.
okay. Thank you. Well, thanks for even putting that on my radar, Julia. This is the first time I've been on any sort of city committee, so I appreciate it. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Oh, our old business. So the first thing listed was the 2021 work
Oh, wait,
plan.
Margaret.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
So this is one of the new items that was amended is communication regarding new member recruitment.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, it's okay. It's okay. So, I've received 2 applications so far from Bryn and Sheila. I received them earlier in August. I just haven't had the time. I didn't have the time within August to process them. I've looked them over. I'm hoping to potentially hold interviews this month. I'm not sure which route I'm going to take in terms of recruitment, but it's something I'm pretty sure we're going to hold interviews. But yeah, that's just the update for now.
Well, giving you some historical perspective, when the original tree board was formed, the interview was with the mayor and he made the selections.
Oh,
And
I see. Okay.
There were probably 10 or 14 applications and people were turned down, but it was Mayor Johnson who made all the decisions.
I see.
So,
Okay.
just to let you know.
I know that.
More.
I know that in 2020 there was a recruitment, and I think Lauren held interviews because I have interview notes at my desk, and I have interview notes in our company files. But I need to check in with Steve to see what approach he wants me to take on this. Because ultimately, ultimately the mayor makes a recommendation to council, and I think council appoints the members to the board.
How did it work for you, Margaret and Doug, as recent members?
I interviewed with the mayor and I can't remember who else. The mayor and someone else. Yeah.
Can I say something?
Yeah, Bryn has a question.
Well, I just have a comment. How is the mayor going to know how to get a hold of me? And is there or whoever interviews me, let's put it that way, whoever interviews me, how are they going to find out that I really don't use my email that much. So I need to somehow get my phone number publicized. Can you do that, Cameron, or?
I'll make a note that
Okay, thank you.
preferred contact is through
Via phone, yeah, via the mobile number.
What
Yeah,
is our maximum number of members we can have?
I think it's 9. The board's supposed to have 7, and then I think that you can add on 2 extra members. I'm not sure if they have to be residents or not, because I'll have to look at the code.
They do not, because we had a member early on who lived in Briar. So do not have to be members.
I think the instructions say you don't have to be a Lake Forest Park resident.
I see. Okay.
But Sheila and Bryn, you both live in Lake
Yes,
Forest, right?
yes,
Yeah. So, okay. So hopefully we'll have some news about you guys at your potential membership at our next meeting. And thank you so much for being interested in this.
Just following up on our selection process. I know we both attended a meeting before we got on it. And then we both had, there's a formal application process. It's just a page or 2. And then I suspect Lauren looked at the people who applied and thought that you and I were the ones that were likely to be useful. for lack of a better way to describe it. And then she recommended to the mayor, and presumably the mayor couldn't care less. I mean, the mayor presumably looked at it, but I doubt he, really tried very hard to compare the people after he got recommendations from Lauren. And then we were recommended to the city council, and we had to both appear, at the meeting, and they asked a couple of questions, didn't they?
Mhm,
Of us?
yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course,
And then-
they voted unanimously to do it, so.
Okay, do we have any more questions about that, about new members for now?
Well, could I just ask, do Sheila and Bryn both have the written application then?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
okay.
received them. I have them on file.
So that would seem to be the first major step.
Yeah.
Okay, can I move on to the old business?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. So we had the 2021 work plan noted here because as I was looking over it with Cameron, I realized that we may have been overly ambitious. There are a lot of big projects on there. And I was hoping I could ask everyone before the next meeting, if you could please look over that, and I can email it to you again if you need. And maybe take a look and think about like 2 or 3 things you think are the highest priority. And so we can decide which things we maybe should table till next year, because realistically, it's not all going to get done. And maybe if there's something that you were assigned to, like I know I was assigned to a couple things I was supposed to get done in May that I haven't done yet. And we can adjust the timeline for that. But it's full of good ideas and really ambitious, but it's clearly not all going to get done. So maybe at the next meeting, we can discuss how to revise it and which things are most important to you guys that you think we should make a point to push for this year and get done. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, you need to really loop Lauren in on that, because looking at the thing, there's a lot of Lauren's, not Lauren.
Yeah, right.
But, if Cameron wants to do the things that Lauren was assigned to do, yes, no. And that may cover a good third of the changes that need to be made. Then you eliminate the Gordons and the Tims, and reassign those.
Yeah.
It's about half wrong, let's put it that way.
Yeah. So I can, Cameron emailed that all out, to everyone with the agenda, didn't he? So you guys already have it.
Yeah. Oh, Ashley,
Yeah.
actually, I also meant Ashley, not just Cameron, but Ashley too. There's a whole bunch of
Yeah.
Ashley stuff on there. In particular, the biggest project she has is the interns for the population study, the remeasurement of the plots.
Yeah.
The tree inventory.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah. So if we can put that on the agenda for next meeting to kind of revise that work plan. And one thing that was on it that we do need to get right on, if you guys agree on doing it, is the IV out program, competition program, whatever you want to call it. I'm wondering, I think it's still a good idea, and I know it's been done for years, so it would be nice to not drop that. And we had talked, I think when I first joined, you guys were talking about doing it in the fall or the winter when it's actually easier to pull the ivy out of the ground. So I'm wondering if there's still support for that. If so, it's a later item, but we are the sponsors of the Lake Forest Park Farmers Market in October 17th. And so we could publicize it then. But I just want to make sure there's support for that. Julia, you were listed, but it said on the work plan, it said Julia / Lauren / multiple people. So I don't want you to have to do it on your own. I don't want to do it on my own.
Yeah, do we have a set date yet? Oops.
Well, October 17th is when we got the sponsorship for the farmer's market. So we get a booth then. So it seems like that would be ideal.
The last I'd heard, you had two options, so,
Yeah, we got that one.
okay.
So that seems like it'd be an ideal time to publicize it. Are you guys in support of doing that? Encouraging people to pull out the English ivy? Bryn is cheering.
I'm way in favor of encouraging people to pull English ivy. The way this was conducted last time, it was, I didn't feel like it worked very well.
Mhm.
It was supposed to be a contest, but there was no quantifiable way to measure, who pulled how much. We offered an award, but then since there was no way to measure who won in any quantifiable way, since there were only 4 participants, we just gave them all a tree. So we need to put some more thought into how we want to do this, it seems to me.
Should we I was thinking maybe it should be more of a challenge instead of a contest, maybe, since like challenge people to, kind of like when the ice water challenge was going around, dump the bucket of ice water over your head. So not a contest, because it's too hard to figure out who got the most, but.
Yeah. That may be a good idea. If we could have it be some sort of a civic challenge that, we somehow get, maybe the city can, parks or someone can provide a truck, and we can try to gather everybody's ivy that they pull and dump it in one place and take a picture of it, and, have some sort of an article in the newsletter about, look how much ivy people pulled from their yards this year. And I don't know what stimulus to get people to do it, but
Yeah.
the reward thing, I just didn't, the competition didn't work very well last year, I didn't think.
Okay.
So
That would be a
can
good
I-
idea on the ivy truck, because when I pulled all of this ivy, it was how to dispose of the ivy and not have it reroute somewhere.
Yeah.
So having a truck from the city for people who are pulling ivy might be fabulous. I would have really liked that.
I would agree with that too, because I spent a significant amount of time and got my wife's car all messed up by cramming ivy into it to take down to the or the shoreline.
I put it in my car.
Yeah, and my wife's car is relatively new, and she didn't really like that one after I pulled it out, and there's all that litter left on. And that was only, and I had several SUVs full when I did our backyard. So
Oh, yeah.
I think it's also important not to make it too time specific, because the place I have ivy growing in my yard is about a 35-degree slope, and you don't want to be pulling ivy there in February. It's slippery and dangerous, and it causes erosion. So in my yard, spring and summer really are the good times to do it.
Oh, okay.
Need to be a little bit not too prescriptive about when it's to be done. I think the ivy truck is a fabulous idea, though.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
even 3
what-
ivy trucks a year, one
What
in
was the
spring, one-
contest last year, last time?
Well, the contest was for people to see who could pull the most ivy, and we would give that person a tree to plant in their yard.
Oh.
And
And how did they prove that?
well, that's the problem. They were asked to send pictures or something, but it was not, there was no way to quantify it.
Right.
And so in the end, since there were only 4 people who participated, we gave them each a tree. And that was fine. I mean, I think that was great, but if we were to hold a contest like this and we got 32 participants, how we would go about quantifying the results
Right.
was completely unclear.
Well, I mean, I actually, the truck is a good idea, but would the city pay for that? Would they let us, have an appointment or, like three particular days for collections or something like that? I mean, that sounds like an expensive little adventure.
Yeah, I asked Cameron about that, if we could, the city's public works, if one of their trucks could do it, and he thought that was not going to be possible.
Right.
So maybe I could look into, I don't know how, I don't know if the tree fund how far the definition can be stretched. Can we use
Right.
the tree fund to, rent a pickup from U-Haul on 2 or 3 different dates? Or do I need to tell my husband I'm volunteering his truck?
I think we need 3 or 4 of your husband's trucks.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, basically, I mean, I mean, the ivy doesn't go into the compost anyway. It goes into the garbage in a bag so that it can be.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, as Sheila had said, that you don't want it to grow somewhere else.
Oh, right.
They have to
That's
dispose of that properly.
Oh, I
Right.
didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Well, that's
think
garbage, as far as I know.
No,
I think that Cedar Grove can deal with
They-
ivy.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
can.
They
And
can.
you just
Okay.
don't want to leave it on your parcel on the
Yeah,
ground
yeah.
or
Right.
something.
Right.
No,
But
it's-
they can chop it up and it's
Yeah.
fine.
So
Well,
maybe,
I think the idea of the city truck needs maybe a little more exploration. I mean,
Okay.
there are regular work parties at several of our parks with
Yeah.
ivy removals, and the city's been very good about picking up the pile that's created
okay.
on a workday.
great, okay.
But you're right, Margaret. I think it would need to be an efficient process. I don't think we can have multiple runs going on. If you wanted to have if you wanted to say the period would be for this 3-week period, this 4-week period, and pickup will be on such and such a date, and be sure your address is registered so that the truck will come by and get it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, or maybe it's a 2-week period and it ends on a certain date though. So you got a pickup route that we could, that would make it manageable. And I don't know what Dick's saying or what Doug was saying in terms of, the timing of that. We did talk before about the wetter weather being better time for pulling, but I heard the point that he was making, but
Mhm.
I don't know if that's enough of a cause, to say like you could have 2 of these things, one in the winter and one in the late spring or something for people who have steep slopes.
Yeah, maybe we could do this first one and see how successful it is. And then
Yeah.
if it's good, do the same, just copy our procedure for the spring. Okay, well,
Weren't you saying that one of the places you were working, people had pulled out ivy in the winter and that it caused a fair bit of erosion? Julia,
I'm sorry.
weren't you saying that?
Yeah, well, they pulled a bunch of ivy out on a slope at Grace Cole. I was talking to a woman who's worked up there a lot. They pulled out a bunch of ivy and just left a exposed slope, and now it's eroding.
mm,
So if you're going to pull ivy on a slope, you have to have a replanting plan pretty much right away.
Yeah.
And that fits with pulling it. Actually, Doug, pulling it out when it's wet is okay if you go ahead and put in a bunch of, just sword ferns at the same time. It's not that, it depends on the steepness of the slope, of course, but on my slopes here in my yard, I pulled ivy out and just put in ferns, and I think there was some minimal erosion, but it was pretty minimal.
so maybe I can, Julia, maybe you and I and Cameron can find out about using the city truck and just kind of figuring out the parameters for this. And
Yeah, I think all you have to do is contact Public Works,
yeah,
Scott Walker, because at 5 Acre Wood, all that ivy that got pulled out, as Mark pointed out, got hauled away by the city.
okay,
So it's not that big a deal.
okay. So Julia, are you still willing to kind of work on this?
Yeah, I'm up
if I
my
help you.
eyeballs with this other project right now. I'll email Scott and ask him.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, I'm, I spent most of the day last week, and then I get all the blowback from the Stewardship Foundation, and I'm kind of feeling like I'm doing all I really can do at this point. Plus, I'm
Okay.
trying to juggle 3 different nurseries and get plants ordered. And
Oh, gosh.
I've been really busy the last couple of weeks doing this stuff.
So maybe I'll get information from you on what you did last year, and then maybe we can kind of assign it to other.
Yeah, I
Other
didn't do
people.
much. I didn't really do the ivy out last year. Dick
Oh,
did most.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I know he's very busy too. So,
Okay.
Yeah,
So we'll-
I'll contact Scott and see what the deal is with Public Works and let you know. How's that?
that sounds great. Thank you.
Okay.
It sounds like the main thing we need to figure out anyway. Great, thanks. Okay. Any other ideas for the ivy out at the moment? Okay. So the next item was the discussion of urban forestry management plan incentives. And Marty, you sent us some an example of what Kirkland is doing. Did you want to talk about that?
Yeah, if Cameron, if you could bring that up, please.
Of course, give me 1 second.
Thank you.
Okay. I think you should be able to see it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bullets are pretty explanatory. They provide up to 150 per tree and 500 per property in 2021. I don't know if that varies by year or what. And they're funded by a grant from the EPA. And I thought that's an important thing to note. The process is fairly rigorous, I would think, for a program like this, but that's my opinion. They have to, the people who want to plant a tree have to take an online tree planting course, and that includes how important trees are, the benefits of trees, and choosing the right tree for the right place. They have to sign a maintenance agreement plus a surface water management agreement in order to get the permit to plant the tree or to get the tree. And then they purchase and plant, and then they submit a rebate form plus a W-9, a photo, and proof of payment and the nursery tag. Next slide, please.
What's a W-9?
I don't know. I didn't look it up, but it's, I'll answer that question. I don't know what it is. There are program requirements as well. The standard ones like within Kirkland city limits on an owner's property. It has to be voluntary and it can't be a replacement for an existing tree or a tree about to be removed. And it has to meet the definition of a tree. They have a pretty extensive list of trees, and then there are, of course, some trees not eligible. The limits, there's a limit to the rebates, and it covers not just the tree, but the soil amendments and mulch. And again, they have to take and pass the online tree planting course and submit the agreements. And then the owner is responsible for planting in the right place and for following the care and the best practices. And the city provides PDFs that cover that sort of thing. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. The points that I thought were interesting is that it's funded by a grant. And oh, good, Mike's brought it up. So what's a W-9?
It's a tax line, it's your social security number.
Ah, okay.
Because I guess because they're giving you money, they have to get your social security number.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's a form of ID, I suppose. Okay, now we know.
Right.
Thank you. Let's see, what else can I tell you about that? What questions do you have about that?
That's so interesting. And that seems pretty generous to me. Don't you guys think, like $150 a tree? That could get you a pretty nice little tree.
Yeah, and remember, it covers the other stuff too, the soil amendments,
Yeah.
mulch, all that sort of thing too. So it's pretty comprehensive, I would think.
Now, what I'm wondering, I mean, I think this is so interesting and worth pursuing. And it was on our work plan this year, but it's, yet another of those ambitious, big, great ideas. And I think that one was assigned to Tim, who's no longer on the board. So is this something you might like to take on more, Marty, or what we could do is just consider it as when we talk about adjusting the work plan at our next meeting,
I think
and see if it's something we want to spend more time pursuing.
I think it should be a well thought out process. I think we should have all the ducks in a row before we launch it. And I don't see that happening in a month. I mean, that's going to take
Yeah.
some work to pull that together. So
Yeah.
it would be nice to get started on it this year perhaps, but maybe next year, the next work plan, or when it's revised again, we could consider it.
Mhm.
And one other thing I'd like to say too, you didn't ask me to do it, but I looked at Seattle Trees for Neighborhoods as well. They also have a program that is similar, but with a couple of differences. In the first place, I believe it's funded by a city department, the Parks Department, for example. It's not a grant program. But they have similar requirements. You have to take a little course, an online course. You get a free tree up to 4 per household with a lifetime maximum of 6. You get training on prompt planting and care and some other things like that. They also require a class on planting and care. As I've said, there's an application required. And they have a similar process for acquiring the tree too. And the other thing I thought was interesting about their program is that the city will follow up and visit the tree for the first 2 years to make sure it's been planted properly and then it's been taken care of. And I thought that's pretty cool. So those are 2 programs that we could consider as we consider this.
You know if there are-
Why reinvent the wheel?
you know
Sorry.
if there are requirements on the size of the tree?
They fit within, that's part of the right tree, right place kind of thing. And they have their list of trees includes a couple of large trees like Doug firs for the appropriate place. It also includes yard trees, which are smaller trees, but still not really small. And then it includes power line trees, which, as we know, are shorter than 25 feet. So they have a range of options for people depending on where the space is that they want to plant the tree.
And you know, actually what I meant, that's a really good answer. It wasn't what I was asking. How big the tree has to be when you plant it?
I'm sorry, say again.
How big is the tree when you plant it?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not sure how big, what size the trees are. What I gathered from the site is they purchase them from various nurseries, and they must get, I'm sure they get some kind of a deal, but they get trees that are well started. They don't get just sprouts. They get trees that are started. I don't know how tall they are. I didn't see that in place.
So do they provide the trees, or does the homeowner provide the trees?
Yes, Kirkland provides the trees. And I'm sorry, no, Seattle provides the trees.
Okay.
Kirkland says you can go out and buy your own, so you can buy any tree you want.
Yeah, you can. It does depend a lot. I bought several trees for our yard, and you can easily pay several $100s for a tree, or you can pay 20, depending very the large part on how big your tree is when you buy it. So I guess it depends on how generous 150 is. Depends on how big the tree they expect you to get is.
Right.
And how long the online course takes.
It
It's
depends
like
on
10
what
minutes. I
tree
went
you're
through it up to the
buying.
point of actually signing up for a tree. So it's a short course. It's probably 15 minutes or so.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
So $150 for that is a good deal.
Yeah,
Did you have a-
the price will depend on, like Doug says, what tree you're buying, what size you're buying, and where you're buying it. And we might want to think about making a suggestion as to where to buy trees. When I help people with their gardens, when I do some consulting, I always give them a list of nurseries, and there's specific ones that I've used. We planted about 20 trees in our garden when we moved into our house 6 years ago. And, you can spend a lot of trees, as Doug says, from, $10 to $500 per tree. But yeah, there's a definite issue there about how much do you want to spend on your tree and where do you want to purchase it.
That would all be part of the consideration. And Margaret, I would like to work on this from the educational aspect of it, because I think we need to start not just with the tree permit process that we already have, but why do you want trees? What's the benefit? What do you get out of it? I think that needs to be included. So yes, I would. And Bryn, that would be part of the consideration down the road.
Yeah.
Um,
I
also,
think this is, oh, sorry, Bryn.
well, I was just going to ask, is there also within this, this particular idea, is there also a future pruning type of situation that goes along with it? Because I find that the most disturbing issue when I walk around the neighborhood is finding out and seeing how people are either ignoring their trees and not pruning them properly and doing some really, really stupid situations where they lop off, top the trees or something like that. And people are just not educated. So does this include something like that?
I think it could. That could be part of the educational resources that we include with this program.
Yeah. I think this sounds really worthwhile. I agree. So I think when we look at revising the work plan at our next meeting, this is on it. So we can think about, keeping it and working on it for next year, but maybe adjusting the timeline because it said it was something Tim was going to do this year.
Okay.
Thank you so much for looking into that, Marty. That was it's really interesting. And it's nice to know there are cities already doing this kind of thing, so we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We can look at what's working for other cities.
Yeah, I could do more research on similar sized cities too. I mean, I'm sure other cities around here have similar programs. So there's lots of research out there.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Let's see.
I wanted to mention that the city has 2 forest management permits that are offered. One of them is the proactive forest management permit. The other one's utility forest management permit. I've spoken with Ashley about it, and she said that in her time here within the past 3 years, that there's been no one that's applied for either one of these permits. And I think I'm only aware of one of these permits being issued since the revision to the tree code back in 2017, but I have a very rough familiarity with that.
What was the first one you mentioned, Cameron? You mentioned utility. What was the first one?
Proactive forest management permit. And there are multiple conditions, or how do I phrase this? There are different requirements, like criteria that they have to meet. And this is from my understanding, this is part of the city's urban forestry management plan. I could be wrong on that though, but it's within the tree code.
Okay.
It's
so like if somebody has a larger lot and they want to do some proactive management of that lot, I believe that what you're referring to, Cameron, is a special permit then that they can arrange to get that allows them to remove more trees. Correct. If that makes sense from the overall health of the plot. It usually applies to larger several acre plots maybe, and so it's an active management of that plot that they might have different allowances that would come into play as long as you had an arborist working with you and the city approved for the overall health of the mini forest that you're managing. I imagine the other one has to do with what the Seattle City Light needs to get, the permit that they get when they do come through and do trimming and tree removal. I think does that sound right, Cameron, in terms of what that's about? So it's very limited, or I guess it could apply to other utilities as well. But
it sounds like they're permits, though. They're not incentive programs.
Well, Seattle City Light has to get a permit from the city to do the work that it does in the right of way.
Right.
But maybe these are something we could look into in conjunction with the incentive program and see if that, encouraging people to get one of these if they have a larger property is a type of incentive, I guess.
I'll check into those. I'll take a look at those.
Okay. Okay, anything else for now about the incentive programs? Oh, Mike D has a comment.
I think on the tree management plan, part of the incentive is it's for like a number of years. I forget if it's like 3 years, and you don't have to file every year. So that saves a lot of money on that filing.
Okay. Well, thank you. Okay, anything else about incentives?
This is unrelated, but my computer just died. I'm so sorry. I was talking to Mark and then my laptop died.
I was wondering why Steve Bennett signed on.
Okay, and Dick just put something in the,
Well, that's just from the
Yeah.
Kirkland tree rebate.
Oh,
That's the
okay, okay.
requirements for planting, which, strikes me as being, you really have to look to find a spot where you could plant a tree unless you owned a lot of open space,
yeah,
20 feet from any other tree. I
What?
don't think there's a spot on my property that's 20 feet from any other tree.
yeah.
Seattle has similar guidelines.
For towns like Kirkland and Seattle, where tree canopy is so minimal, this is great. For Lake
Mhm.
Forest Park, a lot of people simply wouldn't be eligible with restrictions like this.
Mhm,
Because we have so many trees to begin with.
mhm.
Among other things, this would mean you couldn't plant anything in the pavement, the strip between the sidewalk and the road.
Right. I mean, this of course is Kirkland's restrictions. We could maybe make
Right.
different ones here if we had such.
Yeah, yeah,
Of course we could, yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
To me, it's a mixture of things that make tremendous sense and things that make no sense at all.
Yeah.
10 feet from buildings is a really good idea. 5 feet from property lines is probably not even really quite enough. 5 feet from pavement edges? It's not.
I guess they don't want the sidewalk buckled or something.
Right.
Huh, okay. Anything else for now about the incentives? So the next item was the tree board booth at the farmer's market. So we're actually considered the sponsors that day, and we ended up with, I think it's kind of cool, actually, the last day that the farmer's market is open, October 17th from 10 to 2. So I would hope that a lot of people who frequent the market would, they'd want to be sure to hit the last day. So hopefully we'd get a good turnout. And they will provide us with a canopy, so we're okay if it rains, a 6-foot table, 2 chairs, and they give us a shout out on social media. And they'll put they'll put a sign on their info booth, and we're welcome to bring any sort of handouts or signage. So what I'm wondering is how you guys think we should, what should be our top 2 or 3 things we want to do to take advantage of having that visibility. And also what I didn't mention is that Ashley actually said she can come. I don't know if she can be there the whole 4 hours, but at least part of the time. So I'm picturing, Lucy and Peanuts would sign like the arborist is in, but what do we want? How do we want to make the best use of her time?
Oh, I wanted to confirm that Ashley, she brought it up during we have departmental meetings every Monday and Wednesday, and she brought it up today, and she's able to devote those 4 hours.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, what I was just my little brainstorming, I mean, I definitely like to do some sort of shout out to the kids who won the champion tree competition that we held. And maybe some other things I thought of are promoting the idea of all citizens looking for more champion trees, kind of opening that up to everyone instead of just the kids who were invited to be in the contest. Promoting understanding of the tree code. I don't know how we do that, but promoting understanding of the value of the trees. If there could be some sort of poster or signage or something about their their carbon offset, the wildlife they support. I don't, that's just me brainstorming. Do you guys have any ideas about how to make use of this?
Do we have any handouts that have to do with tree planting or choosing trees? Anything
We
like
do.
that?
Yeah,
do.
we do.
May I make a comment?
Yeah,
We have a
Julia.
lot of, we've staffed a table at the Green Fair in the spring, pre-COVID. And I don't know if you found them, Cameron, but there are a lot of brochures that we used at that time to hand out. And I think that they are somewhere in your office because
Yeah,
Lauren, the one that gave them to me. And Corey would know where they are.
Yeah,
But those are things that can be handed out at the time.
I
They're on
have-
things like ivy out and a bunch of other topics.
Mhm. Yeah, I have a lot of brochures and pamphlets. Are they from the Arbor Day Foundation?
They might be. Yeah, that was for Arbor Day, I guess, that we did it. Yeah.
Okay.
No, it was for the Green Fair, but yeah, we can still use them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I have like a bunch of those at my desk. And then we also have the city's the planning department has these documents that we call help topics, and they provide a more generalized overview of the tree code of various aspects of the city's zoning code and other land use related codes, environmental codes. But we have these documents that provide like a very generalized overview of the code, like what constitutes a significant tree, what's a landmark tree, do you need a permit to remove a dead tree, sort of those more generalized questions to answer are, or those generalized questions are like answered on that document.
Okay. So what are some, do any of you have ideas about what we could do at this booth? How can we?
I was just looking at the Washington Department of Natural Resources conifer seedling sales. You can buy Douglas fir seedlings for 70 cents a piece in orders of up to 500. You need 5 days advance notice to pick them up. So it sounds like this is something we could get in time for that. There's nurseries in various places that couldn't find exactly where the best nursery would be. But you know, having something like that we could give to people who come up. We had a couple hundred of them at 70 cents a piece. 200 would cost what, $140. We can afford that out of our tree budget and give away Douglas fir seedlings. You know, even if only some small percentage of them actually grow into mature trees here in Lake Forest Park, that would still be a step forward.
Yeah, I love that.
I'd like to give them an information sheet with it, like don't plant it under the power lines,
Right.
plant it in the right place, give it enough care, all that sort of thing. How to plant.
Make it a bonsai if you live on a tiny lot.
Yeah, don't plant it at the corner of your house. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, I'll get that info from you, Dick, about how to order those, and I can ask Cameron to find out if we can use tree fund for that. It seems like a pretty clear-cut use of the tree fund. And with Ashley's, oh, sorry.
I'll put a link in chat right now to the
Thank you.
website with that information.
Okay, thanks. I mean, what I think would be neat with Ashley, but I don't know if we could publicize it enough, is if people could bring photos maybe and say, like, have her just consult for those hours. Like, here's my tree that is blocking my view. Could it be pruned to open up the view? Or here's this tree I'm afraid is going to fall. How does it look? Or here's my open spot. What tree would you plant here?
Maybe she doesn't want to do that, but maybe she could do plant ID. If people don't know what they have for a tree, they could bring a sample picture of their tree.
Yeah, I think if I were a professional forester, I wouldn't want to make such diagnoses by somebody's poor photos.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a city employee.
Yeah, true.
Well, I think she can beg off of anything she feels uncomfortable about answering, but I think the idea of having her out there
I
Just
think it's great.
answering your tree questions. And it could be about a specific tree or trees in general, or a photo. What is this tree? And she may or may not know. Like you say, want to answer definitively in some cases, but I'll bet she could field a lot of questions. And I think that's something that should be advertised in advance. I think Cameron could talk to folks maybe about a news flash, the tree board at Farmers Market on October 17th.
Yeah.
If at least that, a chance to talk to the city arborist about your tree questions. And if there's a seedling giveaway that evolves out of that, that'd be another thing to mention. I think it'd be good to generate some interest in people coming by and talking to Ashley.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
I told Margaret I'd be happy to participate too, and I'm pretty good with tree.
That would
ID.
be good.
Oh, that would be, yeah, that would be great. Thank you. Yeah, and I know if Bryn is official at that point, I think I can, as my neighbor, I've roped her in already, even before she's a member. So I can, maybe I'll send out a schedule and see who can hang out at the booth when, so we don't have to be there for 4 hours, all of us.
I think a summary of the tree ordinance, if we could get that, and I think they do exist, like Cameron was saying. I think that would be an excellent thing to have some copies of to pass out. And I think the tree planting guidelines would be another great thing to have. And it sounds like Cameron had some quantity of those maybe.
Yeah, and any other ideas for what we should do with the booth, at the booth with Ashley? I think that sounds like plenty. Yeah, okay, cool. So that's October 17th, and I will send out some more information so we are coordinated on who will man it at what time. So thank you all. I had asked to add an item at this point about filling the vice chair position. But maybe, I think you were all here at the last meeting except for Dick. So if Dick feels like volunteering, that's great. Otherwise, since we've got some potential new members coming in, we could just wait till our next meeting to see if someone else is interested in being the vice chair.
I just as soon beg off on this at this point.
Okay, that's fine.
Although I'm happy to help you out, Margaret, in any way that
Thank you.
you need with respect to things like that.
Thank you. Okay, so Cameron, let's just put that on a future agenda.
Definitely. Okay.
Okay, and then the last thing that I had was, sorry to put you on the spot, Julie. I'm sorry I didn't think of asking you to do this earlier, but are you able to give us a few words about how this latest round of your waterworks grant invasives removal went? That was the 16th, is that right? August 16th?
Yeah, it was a Monday. On the ground, it went very well. The crew came in and did a lot of hand pulling of ivy fragments, and there was still a lot of jewel weed around. They pulled almost all of that. And they went ahead and sprayed on the shoulder of the road principally for bindweed, which is impossible to get rid of otherwise. And I think that went well. I was down there in the morning when they started and went over everything with them that they were going to be doing. There are a few trees down there, some exotic, European mountain ashes that we've injected that were injected a year ago and they haven't quite died. And I think they didn't get to injecting them this time, but they will the next time they're down there, just to tidy that up a bit. I had taken time earlier in the summer to go with the president or acting president of the Stewardship Foundation and another interested citizen. And I think Marty, you went with us then? Did you not? Or someone did? No, you, yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, it was Marty, yeah. Went with us and I gave them a tour of the whole thing. We walked down the other, the far side of the creek and I showed them what had been done. They were very pleased with everything that had been done. I'm very excited that we're going to be putting in new plants. And at the time, in my recollection, I did tell them that we would be spraying the knotweed in the creek, because knotweed, there's no way to get rid of it without some sort of, unless you're going to be there every 2 weeks all summer to cut it, which probably is not going to happen. There's no way to control it without using an herbicide. My understanding was that I informed them that we'd be doing that. Apparently that message didn't get through, because I received a rather irate email, as I think Mark did as well, in addition to the mayor and the planners at the city, that we had used an herbicide in the creek. Well, it wasn't, it was sprayed on plants on the border of the creek, yes. Again, we're looking at regrowth of knotweed, maybe 3 or 4 feet high, with 10 to 5 or 4 to 15 leaves on it. So it wasn't a huge amount of aquatic herbicide that's used there. That is a different herbicide than from what was used up above. What was used up above was glyphosate with a surfactant mixed in, a vegetable-based surfactant. I got no blowback when I gave the tour. And I think we were going to send something out ahead of time. But then, Margaret, did you write what came out in the newsletter about
I
what was
did.
done?
Yeah, I was hoping
But it
that
came
would.
out afterwards, so that didn't help as much.
Yeah.
I contacted this one landowner on the south side of the creek who had started removing a lot of his ivy himself. And I went up to the house and that morning and talked to them, and he said, yeah, get all my ivy. And unfortunately, he was pulling it out. But again, this erosion problem you're talking about, Doug, he wasn't really putting much back in. He really didn't know what to do. He didn't know a lot. I said, oh, do you want us to spray the rest of the ivy on your slope? He said, oh, yes, please do. So we did spray that as well. We also sprayed some ivy along the creek, adjacent to where we'd sprayed before, between there and the slope that we hadn't gone far enough up the slope. So there was a couple of sections there that we did. So that's pretty much what went on. It was a full crew there of 4 people. They're all pretty much, 10 hours. So it's 40 hours of work. And when I went back down, I was very impressed with what they'd done. So that's what happened that day. Before and since then, I've been working on trying to figure out how many plants to buy, what species. I've made up a couple of spreadsheets, contacted 3 nurseries so far. Fourth Corner has an order from us for bare root shrubs. Storm Lake Growers is going to provide us with a lot of herbs, including some trees. And then where there were gaps that neither could fulfill, I've contacted Tadpole Haven Nursery. And they've got a few of the plants that I was looking for, specifically some wetland species. There is actually a wonderful little wetland down there that I want to put in some skunk cabbage and some other wet loving plants. So I've been working on that. And I have also contacted an outfit called Salix Solutions, and they have provided me with an estimate that was, I think, $24,000 to fulfill what they thought I needed. And so I wrote them back and said, no, we don't need that many. But they actually have a good price for their willow stakes, and I have yet to figure out the number that we need to get of that. These are live stakes that get put in the ground adjacent to the creek, and about half of them will die, but they're cheap. They're like $1.40 a piece. Or maybe it's less. I'm sorry, I can't remember. And if half of them survives, you get some willows growing along the creek, which then will hopefully break off and go downstream and then wind up planted further downstream as a native plant. So those are the hoops I've been jumping through. And also I think I sent out everyone a picture, which I probably shouldn't have done in retrospect, a picture of the signs that I had made up. to put along the creek that credits. I did them principally to credit King County Waterworks. It was one of, not a condition of the grant, but it was a suggestion of the plant and of the grant. And it took 4 trips to Home Depot, but I finally got it figured out and had them made up, and Cameron received them for me at City Hall. I have them here at my house. I got 5 of them, thinking 4 would cover the area quite well, and just 1 in reserve. And since in case someone steals one or a car takes it out. And these are pretty standard yard signs like you'd see for a political contest. So that's what I've been up to.
Thank
And,
you.
Is the knotweed gone now?
Well, you know, yes and no. It is gone from our section. However, we have an individual that we refer to as the non-cooperator, and he's directly upstream of us. And looking at his property, and his property is absolutely the worst for ivy. It's all on his trees. And I had hoped that his property did not include a huge section of knotweed upstream. Actually, where Whispering Creek and McAleer Creek come together, there's a triangular section there that's just a mess of knotweed. And hoping, without looking at a map, I hoped that maybe he didn't own that. I didn't really think he did. I got permission from 2 other landowners to go ahead and spray the knotweed. And then I looked more carefully at the map and realized that all that knotweed is on his property. So it's going to continue to be a problem because it breaks off and goes down and reroots.
Yeah.
But the knotweed that was adjacent to the creek in our section and has been eliminated through spraying a year ago. The little bit that's come back, both almost in the water in some places, and adjacent to the creek, was what they hit this time around. I don't think we're going to have to use herbicides again unless some other nasty plant comes up. We pulled all the jewelweed by hand, and that probably, cost us, several $100s or more to have the crew do that. Actually, it's probably closer to 1,000 rather than spraying it. But that is something that's very easily pulled. So we went ahead and did that. And that was done this spring. So we've done what we can without using herbicide. We've used it sparingly, really just on those plants that require it for its removal.
Issaquah Creek, I think they were injecting the knotweed.
Yes, you can inject knotweed if it's big, but once you've sprayed it, then when it comes back, it's very small. You have to have, I've done some injecting. It has to be at least a ½ inch in diameter.
Okay.
And these sprouts that are coming back are much smaller. You can also paint it on. It's incredibly labor intensive. Also really requires the person who's applying it to be right in the middle of the whole mess of knotweed. It's probably not a great idea. It could work on little sprouts, and perhaps that's something we could do another time if we get little sprouts back, is to paint it on rather than spraying, but that still requires us to put up the signs that say the herbicide was used, and then people get very upset about it. I don't know. I mean, there's no other way to do it based on every professional that I've talked with. So
Julia, the complaint or complaints you got, those, I got that article out, but it missed the project. So it was kind of explaining it afterwards.
Which was great. Thank you for doing that.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you for giving me the information that I just kind of strung together into a good paragraph.
No, it's well written.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, so it sounds like the grant is continuing on there, further work will be covered. Is that right?
Yeah, the grant goes through December of 2022. I'm probably going to extend it for 3 months until March of 2023. The reason for doing that is that I'd like to have a second planting season, and the planting season is generally January, February, March. Well, December through March. You can't get bare roots until the end of January or into February, or sometimes even into March. And bare root shrubs are principally what we're using. They're inexpensive. If they're planted properly, they really do well. So yes, there's a tremendous amount more work to be done. Also, next summer, we need to go in, or not we, but have Applied Ecology go back and take out regrowth of ivy and other invasives that come in, because there will be more next year. So that's part of the budget, is to do that as well.
I'm just
Um,
wondering if we can, I mean, we talked about, we kind of debated, like, should we warn everyone ahead of time they're using, aquatic safe herbicides only when necessary?
I've
Or
done that.
should we just kind of
I've done
explain
that.
it? Yeah, I'm
I've
just
done
wondering.
that. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's why I took them on a tour, explained what we were doing. And that was the print. I mean, I don't know that we can inform everyone, I guess with social media and a blitz through the city we can, but quite frankly, I don't think we're going to use a lot more.
Mhm.
I'm hoping that is a stage of it that's pretty well completed.
Okay,
So,
well, and
Yeah.
I know it's,
and
in the,
also one other thing is I got blowback from Steve, the planner at the department, because I hadn't warned him ahead of time, but I didn't think it was necessary because I'd already talked to Kim about what we were doing and thought she understood. So, I don't know.
well, and
do the best I
I've reached out to the Stewardship Foundation to introduce myself. I know that Julian Anderson from their board
Yeah, he was
sat
here
in on
and-
our last meeting, and
Yeah,
yeah,
he
he
knew what we
encouraged
were
me
gonna be
to.
doing.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm hopefully, if I can try, as the chairman now, I can try and keep in touch with them, and because those are probably the folks who are most invested and concerned about when these things happen.
Yeah.
So
Also,
hopefully if I keep in good touch with them, that'll help.
Yeah, also, I had a conversation with someone who's been very involved with the Stewardship Foundation over the years, principally up at Grace Cole. And she just scoffed at the idea that you can do things without herbicides. I mean, she's very experienced in dealing with this. And she said that, she really supported me in what I was doing, which,
Oh,
felt
good.
good. But I don't think she's on the board or anything at this point.
Mhm.
But anyway.
Well, and once you explained it to me, since I didn't understand it either, that it made sense. It's the lesser evil, and it's the only thing that can get these certain invasives at a certain time. So I think it's just education too, like continuing to educate people in the city about why it's occasionally needed.
Julia, do you have any pictures that you can show people of places knotweed has really taken over, where you've got like 10 feet and just nothing but knotweed stems?
It
I
would
mean,
be
I
very
have had
easy.
that in my yard, and it's very, it gets the point across real fast.
Yeah, that would be great to publicize.
If something you could show people and they say, well, this is what we're trying to avoid, is knotweed forest.
All I
Mhm.
have to do is look upstream of our project.
Yeah, we just could get pictures of that and say this, we're
Yep.
trying to keep this from happening in the rest of the creek.
Right.
Julia, did you get before shots, photos, so that we could show some before and after?
Oh, well, I did. One of the other board members got quite a few, and then she didn't leave them with me. I have quite a few, but really they're just sort of a mass of green because and I did the same on my property. I took a bunch of before photos, but you just see a mass of blackberry or a mass of this or of that. So it's I have found it difficult. I do have a bunch of those photos, but they're not very illustrative of what was there before.
Yeah.
One shot that I think is very good is the line at the top end of our project, where they put the herbicide and where it isn't and where they didn't. And it's just a straight line right along with ivy on one side and
Oh,
nothing
wow.
and dead ivy on the other.
You have a photo of that?
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
I
Yeah,
think I did.
maybe that could go in a future newsletter or something.
Yeah.
Um,
I think the worst is over in terms of people objecting to the herbicide. I think everyone will be very happy to see the plants going in. So
Thank
Yeah.
you. Bryn,
I'm-
you had a question?
Well, I'm just as upset about using and opposed to using poison whenever just for anything. But at the same time, something as tenacious as knotweed, I don't know, has anyone pointed out to the general public that when you have things like that on your property, it brings the price of your property down. I mean, you know, I
Yeah.
certainly would not go purchase a piece of property that is infested with knotweed.
Well,
Yeah, that's a good point.
Again, you know, aside from this one individual, we've had excellent cooperation from the landowners. So, and I mean, I sicked the mayor on this individual and had him call him, and Mayor Johnson just made the comment that he doesn't like the city and don't trespass on his property. So I don't think he was very polite to the mayor either.
Mm.
So,
Well, it's good you did that though, because that's who should take those kind of calls, not a volunteer working their tail off to try and do
that's all right.
something.
No, I
as
went
well.
to his door and he slammed it in my face, so I get to deal with that too.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh
That's
gosh.
part of it.
Hey, anyone have any more questions for Julia or anything else you want to share about it, Julia?
Well, just one thing, in some parts of the county, it's not, you have to go out and kill knotweed. In certain watersheds where it's not already everywhere, it's actually, you're legally required to try to kill it on your property, but not here.
Yeah.
Because
No,
some of-
the King County's done a huge amount of knotweed removal on the Cedar and one other river.
Doug, do you know more about that? I'm very interested in that. What the city could do to legislate removal of these invasives. Sounds like that's what you're saying. You're
Yeah, I know. No, I know almost nothing about it. But if you just Google the King County noxious weeds, King County recognized three categories of noxious weeds.
Yeah.
Class C is the stuff that's everywhere, so you can't do anything about it. Class A is the stuff.
Giant hogwort.
Yeah, maybe there's a lot of them in each category.
Isn't that the name of it? The giant hogwort or warthog or
Hogweed.
hogweed?
Yeah.
What an
Number eight,
amazing plant that is.
Yeah, is that county? I think that's state. The state has noxious weed rules. And there's three categories. There's A, which is things they really, really, really want to keep out of the state because they know it would be a disaster. There's C, things that are like dandelions that are all over everywhere, so they can't do anything about it. And B is the ones that in some parts of the state, they aren't established and they want to keep us from getting established there. And that's where knotweed comes in. But in this area, it's so established that there's, you know,
I don't think those apply to knotweed or to blackberries. They must remove.
Are everywhere. Blackberries are everywhere. I mean, if it was a noxious weed, like for example, I don't know if you ever ride along the Burke Gilman, but the Burke Gilman is lined on both sides with knotweed for significant distances down in Seattle. And if they said they had to get rid of it, they would have to go in there and get rid of all that knotweed everywhere. So they don't want to do that.
I have one other, I'd like to throw one other piece of information in. The stream keepers are going to be doing some biomonitoring on Mackinac Creek, just below the site where the work has been done. We're going to do that the beginning of October is what we've scheduled that for. It's testing that we've done for many years. The site we've used along Perkins has been upstream of the site where the work was done. We got several years worth of data there, and we were going to test just downstream then of where the work site, and just I'd be very surprised if we see any reflection in these. So this would be an inventory of the macroinvertebrates that live in the stream bed, right? The fly larvae and the worms and the mollusks and other things. And there's a very established protocol that we follow that allow us to essentially rate and score sites. So there'll be that little piece of information available sometime towards the end of the year for whatever that turns out to be worth.
Mark, I will email you the name of the woman in King County noxious weed who has been in charge of knotweed removal by the county. And I think she can give you guidance as to who to consult about where it's required as a Class B noxious weed and where it is not.
Okay. Well, I know the one that I mentioned, whatever it was, the giant warthog, that amazing plant. We had one growing in the corner of our church parking lot in Kenmore, And it was beautiful to watch every couple of years when it came up again. It's a giant tree with this big umbrella structure on it, this giant bush. And somebody noticed that and reported it, and we had to remove it. It was required that we remove that one. So I know there are certain noxious weeds that you do have to remove. And I don't know if it depending on where it is in the county. I imagine it's countywide.
Yeah, Mark, I bookmarked the page that like Doug and Julia were referring to, so I can email that to you. It tells by county which ones are which class.
Thank you. That'd be great. I'd like to see that.
Anything else about? I think we had some good comments in the chat too. Okay. So the next, Julia, the next date that something is happening with that is what?
I don't know.
Okay.
Sometime this winter.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. The next thing I wanted to mention was that I had Cameron add to the agenda was the tree inventory that we tabled last year. So Cameron and I were talking about how we should really start earlier to make sure it happens in 2022, since it was already postponed a year. But Gordon was the tree board member who was heading that up, and he's left the tree board. So we're going to need one or two people to kind of shepherd that along and at least figure out what are the first steps for us so we can make sure this year or this time around we get going on it. At this point, is anyone interested in at least getting that started? I mean, I don't even know I can't really take this on, but we need someone to at least figure out what are the first steps. I wasn't in on the beginning steps last time around.
I think when it finally push came down to shove, we decided that it was probably really best if Ashley took the lead on this, because they're going to be working for the city, and those of us who are not city employees tried to do it and ran into a whole bunch of city rules that we probably should have guessed were there but weren't. And what we thought was going to be a 6-week project turned into a 6-month project, and that was the end of the summer. And realistically, they're going to have to work for Ashley anyway. So I think the thing would be to remind Ashley that to do it next summer, they probably have to start doing the planning at least by October, if not sooner.
Yeah. Okay. So, thank you. I wasn't remembering that. So I'll talk to Ashley.
I'll be happy to work with her on that.
Oh, thank you, Doug.
Dick did last time. I don't know if you want to again, Dick.
Yeah, I could help out.
Okay.
Gordon did most of the work.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So I'll communicate with Ashley and tell her to talk with you guys, and just, I think we need maybe you had it last time, but we need just like a timeline and steps that need to be taken. Seems like
the timeline is just wasn't any good.
Yeah, it seems like the cart got before the horse a bit last time. It seems like interns were found and then the work wasn't ready. So okay, thank you so much.
We had great candidates. We had fabulous people who wanted the job. So it was.
Yeah, I know. I feel so bad for them. They were probably excited about it. Okay, so I'll have Ashley be in touch with you guys, and at the next meeting we can report what are the next steps to take on that. Okay. Anyone have anything else at this point about the tree inventory project? Okay. Cameron, do you want to give us your report or any announcements?
Actually, before we get to that.
Oh, sorry.
My mind works slowly in this kind of thing, but Margaret, could you go through the work plan, or maybe you and Ashley go through it, or you and Ashley and Cameron before the next meeting, and sort of take the obvious things like taking off Gordon, for example, changing Lauren, and getting out the things that Cameron and Ashley know they don't want to do, or that do want to do.
Oh, sure.
So that we've already had a first draft at it before we look at it.
That's a good idea. I'll do that.
Yeah, that would save us time doing stuff next time. Okay.
Thank you.
I should have said that an hour ago, but
that's okay.
Well, to think of it.
Okay. Yeah, I will do that. Thank you. Okay, Cameron, are you with us?
Yes. I'm going to bring up, I have a, I'm going to bring up Ashley's tree permit list. I wanted to discuss one of these permits, since I'm under the assumption that this probably would have stood out to you all. It's the Phillips major tree removal permit application.
Excuse me, Cameron, can you zoom a little bit more, please? Even with my glasses, I'm having trouble seeing it.
Of course, yeah.
Thank you.
So it's this permit, it's 2021 tree 0112. It's a major tree removal permit. It's not as extreme as it appears. So, the landmark tree, so I'm gonna rewind on this one to give a little bit of background. So, in the middle of August, a resident had come in to apply for a tree removal permit, and she had noted that there were a lot of weird trees on her property that were in poor condition, and that the previous owner had topped a few of them to be about 4 feet tall. And then there were another few other like odd trees, quote unquote trees on her property. So she wasn't sure if they met the code definition, so she included them with her application. And then the landmark tree that was noted on the application, it's actually a significant hemlock. I think the DBH is like 26 inches, but I could be incorrect. I know that it's not a landmark, it's a significant tree, and it's also in poor health as well. But I wanted to give some clarification on that one, since it seems pretty bad. I mean, it looks like the applicant is proposing to remove 12 trees, but the total amount of canopy that she's going to be required to replace is only 75 square feet.
75?
Yeah. The trees that are being removed, they don't have a very strong canopy.
There's
went
some
to
really, it's right around the corner for me, and there's, yeah, what stands out is a hideous little like weeping cherry that's also been topped, so it's about 3 feet tall. And
I looked on the street view, on Google Street View, and I couldn't figure out how they could have 12 trees that were being taken down that were required permits. The largest tree looked like something like an Alaska yellow cedar or something, though, that drooping cedar. Or was that on a neighboring property?
I'm not sure. I just know that the largest tree that the applicant's proposing to remove is a hemlock.
Okay.
And it's in poor condition. The canopy is really poor.
well, thank you for explaining, because I was nervous about that too, especially since it's right around the corner for me.
Okay.
But I really, I don't know about you guys, but I really like having this reason for removal. That would have meant a lot to me last month when our neighbors removed a huge, gorgeous sequoia, the one that I complained to. I can't remember, at least Dick and Doug, I think. And then I found out after the fact that it was actually buckling the house's foundation, their sewer line. It was the neighbor's house. So just knowing this reason in advance is really helpful. And I think interesting for us to know why homeowners are removing trees.
That was a good example of a tree put in a totally wrong place.
Yeah.
No way a tree that size should be planted on a lot that small.
Anyone have any other questions about the permits? Okay. Thanks, Cameron. Did you have other announcements or anything to talk to us about?
Nothing off the top of my head now.
Okay.
Are there any questions any of the board members have? Okay.
So our agenda for our next meeting, there's I mean, I tried to take good notes, and I'm sure you did too, Cameron, about what we all said we'd do for the next meeting. But one thing that we talked about at the last one that we didn't have a chance to look into or talk about this time was further discussion of the ST3 projects, the Sound Transit projects impact on Lake Forest Park trees. I think, I don't know if that's something more that Ashley has information about or that you can get information about. There was an interest in knowing.
I'm
in
not
knowing about
sure.
that.
Do it.
Oh, go ahead, Julia.
I mean, I got a notice from them that they have put off the Lake Forest Park garage and the fast bus route from Woodinville down Bothell Lake City Way to 145th to the freeway. That's been put off until 2044. So I don't really think that we need to worry too much about what ST is doing at this point. And this is due to the decrease in funding that they've had secondary to COVID.
Right.
Actually,
So
just
I think it, I don't know, you might know more than I do, Mark, but I think at this point, it's kind of a non-issue.
it's just the parking garage has been put off. The bus
Yeah,
line is still online for 2026.
yeah.
Yeah.
The bus is still online?
Correct.
It's delayed a couple of years, but not as long as the parking garage.
Okay, and how long is the parking garage delayed?
I think Doug said 2044.
Beyond my
That's what I-
lifetime.
Okay,
But-
well, that's
but-
good news.
There is a great chance that could shift again, depending on what might come out of Washington infrastructure work.
Oh,
So
that's a good point.
Cameron, who would be the appropriate person to find out for sure if
I can
the
do-
project is still impacting the trees? Can you look into that?
I can look into it. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll make a
Okay,
note.
thank you. You like how I just subtly assigned that to you? Okay.
Yeah, Steve might be able to put you in touch with one of the consultants who worked on that, who might have that information real handy. And I as part of the issue, as part of the question, we concerned about trees just in Lake Forest Park. I imagine that's what it is, because there's certainly large numbers of trees that have been removed if you look at the whole impact of ST3.
Yeah. And
But I
then I
imagine
don't
our
know if you
concern is
guys,
Lake Forest Park.
sorry. I don't know if you guys have followed what's gone on in Shoreline, but with the Save Shoreline Trees citizens group and like 20 or 30 really big conifers were cut down to enlarge a sidewalk that was part of ST3, and that people are really up in arms. So yeah, I want to make sure we know what the plan is so we don't get upset after the fact. So that would be great if you can let us know, Cameron. Anyone else have things to add to next month's agenda that we aren't follow-ups from what we talked about tonight?
I think Mike D had a comment or a question.
Yeah, I did. It was just on the last topic. Yeah, the reason why I had asked that be put on the agenda or maybe covered is when Sound Transit put their SEPA plan out, their Sensitive Environmental Protection Act, or whatever that stands for, I forget sometimes. It identified a number of trees, shrubs, and greenery that were going to be removed in Lake Forest Park. And it was very disproportional compared to other cities that had stuff planned. And so just wanted to draw attention to that and make sure that was going to work out for everybody.
Thank you. Okay,
Sure.
so Cameron, you'll report back next month.
Yeah.
Any other calls for items to go on next month's agenda? Okay, so I will, in the meantime, I will work with Cameron to revise the work plan like Doug suggested and get that out to you. And then I'll ask you guys to think about if we need to drop things from our overly ambitious plan, which are the most important to you that we should definitely keep. So. Okay. Okay. Anything else for the good of the order?
And share my, if I can figure out how to share my screen with you, I can show you some rather pretty street trees that are planted within 5 feet of the street. See what happens when I click share screen.
I'll make you a
Oh.
co-host.
Hmm?
I made you a co-host, so you should be able to share your screen.
Yeah, look at that. We're pretty much done 8 minutes early. So show us your trees, Doug.
And I'm trying. There.
Can we close the meeting first?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Can I have a motion to adjourn
I move we adjourn.
in a
I second
second?
the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay. Thank you for being such good sports in my first meeting as chair.
Good job.
Thanks. Oh,
Thanks,
I'm your turn
everyone.
now.
okay, so now we're unofficial now.
It's just the one picture I wanted to show, but they're talking about not planting within 5 feet of